Welcome to DNA's monthly webinar series, where we feature third-party solutions to help maximize your investment in Sage 300. Alors, bonjour et bienvenue au webinaire mensuel de DNA. While this session is going to be in English, we invite you to use the chat window to submit your questions and comments in the language of your choice during the session. All cameras and microphones have been muted, and this presentation will be recorded and added to our website and YouTube channel for those who missed it or wish to hear it again. Today's presentation is about one of the many modules launched by TaiRox, a company based in BC, with a world of experience in offering proven application and data management modules, diagnostics, and various tools to significantly improve your productivity with Sage. The TaiRox Collections module, which is the topic for today, provides collection features integrated into the Sage 300 desktop and stored in a Sage 300 company database. TaiRox Collections help you manage overdue payment reminders, disputed invoices, promised payments, payment due alerts, cases, notes, and communications, all from a user-friendly, collections-focused dashboard. Our presenter today is Nancy Lavery, partner in the Lavery Group based out of Toronto, who represents a number of popular Sage ISVs, including TaiRox. Nancy will give us an overview and a demo of the solution, and we'll keep the last 10 minutes or so for questions Q&A. So I'm going to make Nancy presenter and turn the floor over to her.
Great, thanks very much, Michael, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate you spending some time with us today. So as Michael mentioned, I'm going to be showing you the TaiRox collection module. So this module is fully integrated into your Sage 300 environment. So I'm actually going to start under Administrative Services to show you activating the module would be the same as when you're activating any of the Sage modules. Now, if you are interested in this module, you can get a demo license for this module, and you see once it's activated, it just appears here in the menu of modules. And under the setup, we've created a utility that will create demo data within the module. So if you wanted to see this module with your data, then you can just come into this utility and create some demo data. And of course, this should be done in a test environment, not in your live environment. But you can quickly create some demo data using your own data so you can see what these features would look like. Once you've done that, this warning will pop up every time you log into that test environment to let you know that the module is running in demo mode. Now you notice it says CRM. This module initially started as a light CRM module to track inside sales activity, but it quickly morphed into the collection module, and the majority of the features are surrounding the collections capability. If you're interested in the light CRM, it gives you the ability to track new opportunities within this software, but I'm going to be focusing on the collection features. Now, the companies relate to your AR customers, and I'm going to show everything today from the perspective of one of your customers. But know that there is global perspectives of the data, and I'll highlight that as we go along. So when I open up the company screen, I'm going to be able to see all of my AR customers in this screen. The screens are dynamic in that if you make an update to the AR customer record, it will also be updated here in this module, and the reverse. If you make an update to the customer here in the collection module, that would be reflected in accounts receivable as well. So we're going to focus on Ronald Black. If you've been to Sage 300 demos, I'm sure you've heard the name Ronald Black. So we're going to focus on that customer today. This module was originally designed to give you a lot of information that's one click away. So this company page contains quite a bit of information relating to your AR customer. You'll be able to see the customer number in accounts receivable. You can also drill to your AR customer screen as well as the AR customer inquiry screen. So those are your standard Sage accounts receivable screens that you can drill to from here. And you can see the currency that they're trading in. You'll see these little arrows, and those give you the ability to punch out to other screens. So for example, if I had a website stored here, we'll just put in TaiRox.com and save that. Then I can just click this button and it'll launch the website for me. So you can do that if you wanted to launch an email, you could do that. And also under the address page, you have the ability to launch Google Maps just by clicking that arrow. This, standard information will be on the front page, but you can store as many contacts as you like. So there's no limit to the number of contacts. If any of you are running the Sage multi-contacts, then this module will respect the Sage multiple contacts and gather its information from there. So there won't be any competition within the software for that. We'll recognize if you're running Sage multi-contacts. But within this module, you can store as many contacts as you like. And as we move through the presentation today, I'm going to show you how you can send out documents through this software. So you can send out copies of invoices or statements. And ultimately, as Michael mentioned, overdue payment reminders. So these X's within these columns, you can determine when you do the configuration, which of the contacts should be receiving different types of documents. In my case, everyone's getting everything. That wouldn't reflect a real life scenario. You typically have some contacts that would receive copies of invoices. Maybe someone else would be responsible for getting overdue reminders, or someone else getting statements. But the benefit of being able to set that up against each contact, you don't have to know that if you're doing the processing, and you'll see that as we go through today. I mentioned if you're running the CRM, you can also track opportunities, but again, I'm focusing on the collection features. You can buy just the collection features on their own. So we're just going to focus on that for today. You can link documents throughout the software. So you'll see as we open screens, there'll be a document tab where you can link documents if you wanted to store backup. You can track cases, and the cases can be support cases, as this one is, but in relation to collections, you can store collection type cases. And, so if you give someone a call, you've spoken with someone, then you can create a case and you can put in notes and comments as to what took place within that collection activity. And then you can put a revisit date on that. And you'll see this revisit date appearing on a number of screens. The revisit date will determine when things appear on your dashboard. And I'll show you that dashboard near the end of the presentation. But it's effectively where you can go to see what you should be looking at and taking care of on a daily basis. So this revisit date will determine when things appear on your dashboard for follow-up. So you can do that for a case. You'll also be able to do that for a few other features that I'll show you as we go through. You can store notes throughout the software. And again, a lot of the screens, you'll see a notes tab where you can just store any free-form notes. And you can keep track of communications. So because I've just activated the software, you can see there's no communications as of yet, but we'll create some as we go through the presentation today. So as far as creating communications, there's different types of communications that you can create using this software. You can send documents. Each time I do this, it'll just mention that we're in demo mode, which is fine. So with this send document feature, it gives you the ability to send out documents. You're speaking with someone and they've said, oh, I didn't get a copy of that invoice, for example. So within this screen, When you click the Recipients tab, you'll see all of those contacts that relate to this particular customer, and you can choose which ones you want to send the correspondence to. And then each of these tabs will list the different documents. So I can say I want to send a copy of an AR invoice or receipts or orders, OE invoices, credit debit notes, or a copy of a statement. And these would all be, documents that have typically already gone out, but for some reason they need another copy of it. So it gives you the ability to pick and choose what you want to send. And you can also attach outside documents. So these would be documents outside of Sage 300. You can just click the add button and go out into your environment and pick any additional documents that you may want to attach to that correspondence. And then you would just click the send documents button. And what it's going to do is it's going to create copies of, in my case, the AR invoices that I chose. It's going to look to the contacts and get their information, generate the email and send it out. And when it does that, it will then create a communication against the company page. So anyone else coming in will be able to see communications that have gone out. And in fact, you can open up and view the email itself that went out. And it'll show you who it went to, what was attached, and of course you can determine what information is in the body of that email. So within the configuration, you can specify the text that you want to see appear here. So that's one way of sending out documents, typically when you're resending something that the customer may have already received. But you also have the ability to send out bulk documents. And this would be the features that you're familiar with in Sage 300 now. So if you're sending out statements at the end of the month, for example, this screen would be familiar to you. It's the exact same screen that is in accounts receivable. The difference here being that it's going to track it as a communication. So if I say I want to send these statements out, it's going to process, in my case, this small range of customers. It's going to process those statements, and then it's going to create the communication against that company tab. So you can do this for bulk mailing of statements as well as bulk mailing of your invoices. So we'll say, yes, they were created successfully. And so you could do the same thing if you want to send out a batch of invoices. So again, it's the same feature that you have in Sage 300. The difference being when you process it through the collection module, it's going to create a communication against the company tab. So if we go back to Ronald Black communications, we'll see there's the statements that went out that we just processed. So two different ways of sending out existing documents through Sage 300. Now, as far as the collection features go, you do have an aging screen where you can see an aging of the collections. And I'm just going to back up this as of date based on the demo data. But I can fetch and I can see for my customers the aging. I'll just expand this so you can see the different aging buckets. A lot of the columns have this little arrow here, and what that means is you can drill to an underlying screen. So in this case, I can drill to the AR customer screen. I could also drill to that company screen that we've been looking at within the collection module. So you'll often see that little box with an arrow, and it means you can drill to an underlying screen. We also have this column with flags in it. So it's just giving you some additional information. So if a customer has been put on hold, you'll see a little symbol here in this column in red. You can also, if you see a $sign, it means that there's unapplied cash or credit up in accounts receivable that you may want to review. If they have a case that's open, you'll see the exclamation point. And if there's disputed invoices or promised payments, there's symbols to signify that as well. So it gives you, a little bit of a heads up if there's something that should be reviewed. Now we've mentioned disputed invoices, so you can track disputed invoices. So if you're speaking with a customer and they've said there's something wrong and that's why they're withholding payment, you can make a note of that in the system so that people aren't continuing to follow up until that dispute has been resolved. So we'll just create one here for Ronald Black. Once you choose the company name, then the finder will show you all of the invoices for that particular company. So let's just pick invoice 3 as an example. And you can see I've got a drill down to the company page here in the collection module. I've got drill downs to the AR customer screen, the customer inquiry screen, as well as your invoice screen. So you can see the details of the invoice if you need to. And let's just say the entire invoice is under dispute right now. Now here's this revisit date that I was mentioning. So I can say, I want to revisit that at the beginning of May to see if we need to do anything further. And you can also assign it. So in this case, I'm logged in as admin, so it's defaulting it to myself. But if I want someone else to follow up on that, then I can assign this to someone and then it will appear on their dashboard to follow up. And then as I mentioned, I can just add a couple notes here, or I can use linked documents or additional free-form notes if needed. So we'll add that as a disputed invoice. And then you can also track if they've said that they've sent in payment. So again, you're speaking with someone and they've said the check's in the mail, then you can come to this promise payment to track that as well. So you can create a note that they've said that they've sent payment. So let's just say they've said that they've sent $500. Once it's paid, you can fill in the amount paid. And again, you can put this on a dashboard to follow up to make sure that if that payment doesn't show up, that you call them back to find out where that payment is. So that's a way for you to track the promised payments and disputed invoices. So when it comes to creating the overdue reminders, you can come to this overdue invoice screen and you can see all of the overdue invoices. So it's just going to load the screen here for me. And again, I can drill into the customer, I can drill into the collection company screen, I can drill into the invoice. And right now I'm seeing everything that's open. You can see here I'm seeing one page of 5. So I'm seeing all of the overdue invoices. But if I wanted to just review Ronald Black, if I wanted to see a particular customer, then I can do a quick filter. And now I'm just seeing the 6 overdue invoices for Ronald Black. And you can see here the symbols. The @ sign is that disputed invoice that we just created. The plus sign is, the plus sign is the overdue invoice. The @ sign is that they've said that they've sent payment. So a number of flags are appearing here. But we know that invoice 3 is the one that's under dispute. So what you can do is you can put that on hold. And by putting it on hold, when you process the overdue reminders, it won't send the reminder for that particular invoice. You know, if you've already spoken with someone and they've already told you that they're disputing that invoice, you don't want to then send them collection activity for that particular invoice. So you can come in here and you can put it on hold and you can specify that it's a disputed invoice. And I'm going to revisit that in May, and I can add that. And then it puts it on hold. So again, when I process the overdue reminders, it won't include that invoice. But we also know that they've sent payment for something. So we'll also put this invoice 6 on hold. And I can specify, in this case, I'm putting it on hold because they've promised payment. You can see you also have the option to put something on hold and specify that it's under review, or put something on hold when you send it to a collection agency. Again, just so you're not sending out reminders for something that you already know what the problem is. So I'm going to say that they promised payment, and again, I'm going to revisit this in May so that it appears on my dashboard then. So as far as processing the overdue reminders, I'm just going to do it for Ronald Black. So when I process the overdue payment reminders and we update this screen, you can see that it updates with everyone that currently has overdue reminders. So I could say select all and click this create overdue payment reminder button, and it's going to go through and send the overdue reminder to every one of these customers and log that as a communication. But in the case today, we're just going to do Ronald Black. So we'll just choose Ronald Black here, and we'll process that. Now this stage column, you can see it says 4-delinquent. You can have up to 4 different stages. Under the options, you can specify a color scheme and the different buckets. In my case, I have late, past due, in arrears, and delinquent. This is a free-form field, so you can specify the different levels within your collection activity. And you can specify whether you want to send an email or create a task. So in most cases, at least the first 2, even maybe the first 3 levels of arrears, you may want to send an email. But at some point, you can rather create a task. And what that does is, rather than sending them another email about their overdue, you can create a task list, and that would be the list that someone would use to start making phone calls to people. So you have the option there. And then the template is your wording. So, it'll get more severe as time goes on. So you can specify the wording for each stage as those emails go out. So back to our overdue reminders. What I can do here, so I've just activated Ronald Black, and we can say create the overdue payment reminder. It's just mentioning demo mode again. You can choose when you send the overdue reminders to attach copies of the documents that are overdue. And if you're doing a task instead of sending an email, you can specify who to assign it to and put in a revisit date for their dashboard. But we'll go ahead and process this. And again, what it's going to do here is it's going to create copies of any of the invoices that I've chosen to attach. And it's going to look at the configuration against the company tab to see which of the contacts for that company should be getting this overdue payment reminder. And once it's processed it, you notice Ronald Black disappears from the list. And if we go back now to the company page, we will see that communication for the overdue reminder that went out. So we'll open up this company page for Ronald Black. And under the communication tab, we'll see here the overdue reminder went out. And when we open that up, we'll be able to view that email, and we can see the people that it went to, the copies of the invoices, the verbiage, and then we'll list the invoices that were included in that overdue reminder and an aging. And again, you can decide what this verbiage is based on the template that's created in the software. But you can see when you're processing those overdue reminders, you don't have to know who it should be going to. That's all based on the configuration that's here at the contact level. Again, down at the end of this column, who should be getting overdue payment reminders. So it makes it quite a lot easier to be able to just see what's overdue, click a button, and it's going to send all of those overdue reminders out. So now that we've created some data, I can show you that on this company tab, this information updated. And I can now at a glance, when I open up this company page, I can see at a glance if they have any open cases. In this case, they have the disputed invoice that we created. They have 6 overdue invoices currently. and there's one where they've said they've sent payment. But by clicking on this collection button, I can see all of the details related to collections. So from a management perspective, it's quite handy to be able to go to one screen, that company page, and be able to see all of the information related to that customer. So again, here I can see their AR customer number and drill to the AR screens. I can see their credit limit. I can see all of the invoices and drill to the underlying invoice screen to view those in detail. I can see any open cases, notes that have been tracked, the communications that have gone out, the disputed invoices, where they said they sent payment. And of course, any of these lines I can double click to open up to see the details in the underlying screens. And I can also see a list of their overdue invoices. So all of this information is directly from this main company page. So, you know, that's where we get to this, everything's one click away, all related to this company page. So I've been mentioning the dashboard. So this dashboard is where users can come to see what they should be taking care of. So I've got for today's date, I can say I only want to see for myself from a daily, weekly, or monthly perspective. And if we move this to May, we'll see there's the disputed invoice and the promised payment. But from a management perspective, you can choose to see all users. So you'll be able to see who it's been assigned to and when they should be revisiting that. And you can amend things straight from this dashboard. So if I know that this disputed invoice, there's an update on this, I can come in here, I can add a note to it, and then I could come back and say, I'm going to change that revisit date to next week, save it, and then it's going to move on the dashboard out to the 15th in this case. So you can make amendments to things straight from this dashboard. If a calendar view is easier to deal with, then you can view that same information from a calendar perspective. So as I mentioned at the top, I've been showing everything from the company perspective. But if you wanted to see a more global perspective, for example, I could open up the document screen and I can see all documents that have been linked throughout the software. So a totally different view. So if you wanted to see a global perspective, you could do that from any of these individual icons. So that covers the overview of the main features of the collection module. So at this point, I will open it up for any questions.
Overviews you provide, Nancy, right to the point, and the TaiRox tools are so easy to understand and target a very specific need inside Sage 300. A couple of questions. Can I personalize, and I think we've covered some of that, but just maybe re-emphasize, can I personalize the letters based on the age of the receivables and the client's language?
Yes. So under the setup, for this accounting document screen is where you can specify for an AR statement. And you can see here I've got statement, letter, invoice, overdue payment reminder, and the payment due alert. Sorry, I should mention this payment due alert. That gives you the ability to send out proactively. So if you wanted to, you could send out a reminder to say you've got invoices coming due next week. So you have the option to send notices out to people that are coming due rather than waiting until they're overdue. So you have the option to do that. So from this screen, you can specify the body of the email and for each of the different types of documents that you're sending out. So that's under the send documents. And then under the options for your stages, so this is your different stages and collections. So this is free form. So you can put in whatever information you want here. So if you wanted to put that in French, you could. And these are the 4 different stages of your collection activity. And then you can have an email template that's different for each of those stages. And you can specify what the verbiage is, what the information is within that email.
Would I be able to target a specific language, or should I make my message basically bilingual?
I think you would have to do bilingual, unless you're doing straight French, you could do that, because this is just a template that you create on your own. So you can preview that. So, mine's straight English. You could make this bilingual within the template, and then that's what would go.
So the templates are all inside the software, the TaiRox Collection software? And the
Yes.
documents you send can be either inside, like the invoices, or can be for external, correct?
So when you're sending overdue reminders, that would be just the invoices within Sage. If you're sending out copies of documents using the Send Documents here at the Company tab, this Send Documents, then from here you can add additional outside documents.
Okay.
So you have the ability to add attachments here, and you can just, when you click the add button, it opens up into your environment, so you can pick a document from anywhere within your environment to send. So this is where you would typically choose a recipient, and then you can choose copies of documents to send. When you're sending the overdue reminders from the overdue reminder screen, then there you would just be sending copies of the invoices if you choose. So here, when you go to process, you have the option to include copies of the AROE invoices or AROE credit notes, but you can't add additional documents from this screen.
Got it, thank you. Do I need an additional Sage license, a land pack?
No. It behaves the same as any module. So because we're fully embedded in your Sage 300 environment, all you need to do is under administrative services, give the user, that's create security groups. If you're using security in Sage, then you would just give them access to the module here under the standard Sage security.
Okay. Any particular requirements of Sage versions? Does it only work on the latest 2023, or can I go backwards?
TaiRox products work across multiple versions. So one install would work across different versions.
Yeah, that is one of the features I love about TaiRox. So you're running 2020,
Yeah.
or yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what, it's compatible.
Anybody has any questions, please submit them in the chat. I've got one, and that's for myself. Can you revisit quickly the dashboard again, where management would want to see basically how effective are we in our collection efforts?
Yeah, so from a management perspective, in my mind, there's 2 different screens. You can come to the company page and view everything related to that customer. So I can come to Ronald Black's company page, and from this page, I'll be able to see everything related to Ronald Black. I can see the contacts, I can see documents that have been stored, any open cases I can see from here. Notes, I can see all communications that have gone out. I can see all of the collection activity just by clicking this collection button. So if they want a more granular view of that particular customer, because I can see their credit limit, I can see their aging of overdue invoices, their average days to pay, and so on. I can see all of that granular information from the company page. Or in terms of, where your collection activity sits on any given day, this dashboard will show you either a daily view, a weekly view, a monthly view, and you can choose the date. So right now I'm seeing April 1 to 30. I could just click that button and see what's coming up in May that needs to be followed up on. And you can see it for a particular user. So I can say, you know, what's the admin got sitting, waiting to take care of. So you can drill into any particular user to find out what their collection activity is, or you can see a view of all users.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So, and I've never heard anybody complain that a webinar finished early. So thank you, Nancy, for this great overview. Anybody has some questions or wants some follow-up, by all means, I'm just going to switch the screen for a second so you can see where to send your questions. And feel free to send an email to sales@da.ca, and either Mariam or myself will get back to you. We will be sending a link to the recording of the webinar. Et si vous voulez nous envoyer des questions en français, on est bon pour ça aussi. So thank you, Nancy. Thank you to everybody for taking the time to join us today. We have 2 more webinars planned for the month of May and June, and the invitations will be sent in a few weeks. So I hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.